Did you know that there's a big issue with social media and pop culture nowadays? The issue comes from pop culture and how it depicts wealth and the influence it has on audiences.
Oh.
I know it sounds crazy, but let me explain to you why by using a movie released in 2019 called Parasite. Parasite is a Korean film that depicts the injustice of wealth disparity in society nowadays. How it does so is by following two main families, the Parks and the Kims. The Parks are as wealthy as can be, and the Kims are the complete polar opposite of that. While the Parks are able to buy as many products as they want, or continuously keep hiring new workers to do simple chores for them, the Kims live in the slums, struggling to make ends meet on a day-to-day basis. But that all changes whenever the Kim's son, Ki-woo, who is the son of the Kim family, is able to work as a tutor for the Parks family. So how does this show the problem? Well, this is done because as soon as he starts working there, he sees the lavish and rich lifestyle that they live on a day-to-day basis, and it blinds him. He originally just wanted to earn money for his family, and maybe even so he could go to college. It soon became on how he could get his own family to start working under the Parks. Here's where the issue lies. He didn't go about it in a fair way. He used underhand tactics to make sure that he could get his entire family hired without the Parks even knowing they were related. Isn't that crazy? And while his plans do work, that only builds misfortune because not only he gets blinded by the pursuit of wealth, but his family too. An example of this is when the Parks went out for a camping trip, the Kims decided to live in the Parks' home while they were gone. Here's where misfortune starts to build up. While they decided to be reckless and live in another person's home without them even knowing, a thunderstorm happened and flooded their own home. And from there, only further problems continue to arise. But I won't spoil that for you. You have to watch the movie for yourself. But I will tell you about a few articles that also share the same view as me. While I won't go into depth on each one, because that's too much work, it is important to state that all of them have two main important points. One is that between the Parks and the Kims, it's an entirely parasitic relationship for both ends. The Parks rely on the Kims for simple labor because they're just so entitled and they can afford it, while the Kims rely on the Parks to make money, or sometimes even live in their home. The thing about that relationship, though, is that while the Kims have everything to lose, the Parks have nothing. That's just how it works. They have wealth, Kims don't. Also, another important takeaway from each of these articles is that all of them can convey that greed made the Kim family blind, because they were so blinded by trying to chase wealth, they ended up forgetting what was most important to them. And really, if you watch the movie, you'll know they lost more than they could have ever gained. Now you may be asking, why is this issue important? I mean, yeah, we saw how wealth can blind people in Parasite, but how does that affect real life, let alone pop culture? Well, I'll tell you, we've all seen it, or even crimes happen nowadays just because of wealth. Let me list a few. Gambling, robbery, kidnapping for ransom, and sometimes even murder. And what happens is sometimes these are only done by people who were guided by a dream of wealth, guided by what they saw others have through pop culture. And sometimes morality goes out the window for that. Now let me talk about the lesser extreme of the few, gambling. It's so notorious nowadays, but while it's also notorious, it's super well known that you will really not make your money back, except for me. But even so, when that is such a well-renowned fact, people still do it. You want to know why? Maybe they will be the lucky 1%. Maybe they'll be like the people they see in media who do win. But really, sometimes it's just better to walk out because you might end up losing more than you even came with. Next, we've all seen clothing brands like Gucci, Prada, Balenciaga, or even like some cryptocurrency scams. These things are only bought by wealthy people through social media, yet people who simply don't have that same amount of wealth buy them as well. And I'm sure there might just be people who, think they look cool with that. But really, there's a vast majority that only buy that because they see, oh, these wealthy influencers do it. Maybe I should too. Isn't that crazy? But that just goes to show how prominent this problem is, because people will see, oh, these wealthy people have this, maybe I should get that too. Maybe then it'll seem like I have that same level of wealth. But sometimes it's important that when we see those things, you gotta remember that those objects often distort what we actually want with what we think we want. Lastly, we've all seen it nowadays, whether you've realized it or not. It's how prevalent this issue is in social media, especially TikTok. You see it all the time on the app's For You page. Oh, these wealthy or famous influencers who only gain that through TikTok. They got lucky. Whether it's by doing a trend, even doing a trend that's just blatantly stupid or harmful. Isn't that crazy? But even so, when these younger audiences see this, they tend to believe that maybe they can become famous too. That isn't a problem, I know, but it is whenever these kids start to ignore what they should be focusing on. They shouldn't be focusing on making, oh, I gotta make one more TikTok, or oh, the most recent trend might just have me consume a Tide Pod, but whatever I'll do for fame and money, It wouldn't matter in the long run if I get popular, right? I'll become famous, I'll earn money. But that's the key issue. People end up chasing after this dream that maybe they can be rich too, but they end up ignoring what they should be caring about. Sometimes what pop culture influences when it comes to wealth can sometimes create a blind pursuit of such, which only ends up a bigger burden than a blessing. Isn't that concerning?